Okay, I want you to do me a favor. Just for a second, think about your browser tabs.
Oh, no.
Be honest. How many are open right now?
If you're like most people, it's probably somewhere in the range of, way too many. I should probably just restart my computer.
Right. And it's not just the tabs. It's the jumping around.
Yeah.
You've got Google Docs open for writing, then maybe Trello for tasks, Slack is pinging.
And a spreadsheet for the actual numbers somewhere.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
spend half your day just switching between these little islands of information. It feels like you're working harder managing the tools than doing the work.
There's actually a name for that. Researchers call it digital fragmentation. And it's a huge cognitive drain. You're not just tired from your job, you're tired from trying to bridge the gaps.
Which brings us perfectly to our deep dive today. We're talking about Notion.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for some of you, that's just, that app my friend uses to organize their sneaker collection.
Or maybe a company wiki that no one updates.
Sure. But this isn't just a story about another productivity tool. This is a story about a company that tried to solve that fragmentation problem, failed spectacularly,
I mean, just epically failed.
and then literally had to flee the country to figure out how to fix it.
The Kyoto Reset. It's one of the most dramatic turnarounds in recent Silicon Valley history, but people just don't talk about the messy part. They just see the $10 billion valuation now.
I was so shocked reading the source material. I mean, they were so close to zero.
Life support, absolutely.
So that's our mission today. How do you go from a broken, dying startup to completely reinventing how we organize our work online? And I really want to get into this idea they have of software as Lego bricks.
That's the key. That's the whole thing. But to get why the Lego idea was so powerful, you have to remember what software was like back then. We're talking, what, early 2010s?
There's an app for that era.
Precisely. And the philosophy was unbundling. Do one thing, do it perfectly. The perfect notes app, the perfect to-do app.
And Ivan Zhao and Simon Last, the founders of Notion, they looked at all of that, and they hated it.
Hated it isn't the right word.
Yeah. That seems a little strong. I mean, those apps were good, weren't they?
They were good at their one job, but Ivan's whole point was that they were rigid. They force you into their way of thinking.
Okay.
If you open a to-do app, you have to think in checkboxes. If you open a spreadsheet, you have to think in cells and rows. He didn't want to give people a tool. He wanted to give them a medium, like clay, so they could build their own tools.
That sounds really abstract. I mean, most people aren't trying to build their own tools. They just want to write a grocery list. They don't want to become a programmer.
And that's the core tension. They were pulling from these, really old school computing ideas, stuff from the 70s like Alan Kay's Smalltalk or HyperCard.
All right.
The dream back then wasn't apps, it was computing environments that you, the user, could actually shape.
So the everything app, that was the goal. A single place where your documents, your tasks, your databases, it all just lives together.
Yes. That was Notion 1.0.
And it was terrible.
It was a complete disaster.
Walk me through that, because the stories you usually hear are, the first version was rough, but you could see the promise. The sources on this one make it sound unusable.
It was a technical dead end. They picked the wrong tech stack. The whole thing was built on a foundation that just couldn't do what they wanted. It was slow. It would crash constantly.
Ugh, nothing kills a productivity app faster than lag. If I have to wait for my own to-do list to load, I'm just going to use a pen.
Exactly. And the market felt the same way. They launched and crickets. The feedback was it was clever but not essential.
Ouch.
And for a startup, that is the kiss of death. You can be ugly but essential. You can't be clever and non-essential. You're done.
So it's 2015. The product is broken. The team is tiny. They're running out of money. This is where most founders pivot, right? They say, okay, the big dream failed. Let's just make a simple checklist app and sell it.
That's the logical move. But Ivan and Simon were stubborn. They really believed the vision was right, but the execution was wrong. The problem was San Francisco.
Too expensive to live there while you figure things out.
It's expensive, yeah, but it's also noisy. The pressure in the Bay Area is to always look like you're winning, you're growing, you're raising money. It's really hard to just stop and say, this is broken, we have to tear it all down.
So they did something extreme.
They fired everyone.
Can we just pause on that for a second?
Yeah.
It's so easy to just say that as a business decision.
Right.
But these were their friends, the people who believed in the idea first.
Yeah.
That had to be just devastating.
It was brutal. They let go of all their staff, they subleased their office, and they figured they had just enough cash to keep the lights on for a bit longer if they cut their own living costs to basically zero.
And that's where Kyoto comes in.
That's where Kyoto comes in. They moved to Japan.
But why Kyoto?
Well, two reasons. One, it was way cheaper than San Francisco, obviously. But two, and this is the really wild part, they didn't speak any Japanese.
Wait, they moved there because they didn't know the language?
Yes. They wanted total isolation. No networking events, no distractions, no social life. They treated it like a monastery. They got a tiny apartment, wore the same clothes every day, and just coded for like 18 hours a day.
That is not a fun digital nomad trip. That is a desperate last-ditch effort to save the company.
It was. And they weren't just fixing bugs. They realized the whole interface, the whole idea of how you interact with the page had to change. They spent all that time in Kyoto just obsessing over the editor experience.
Okay, and this is where the block comes from.
Mm-hmm.
The sources all point to this as the big breakthrough, but to me, a block. It just sounds like a paragraph of text. What's the big deal?
This is the magic trick. This is the whole aha moment.
Yeah.
Think about a Microsoft Word document. To the software, it's just one long, continuous scroll of text.
Okay.
It doesn't really know what a headline is versus a list item. They're just styled differently. If you want to move a paragraph, you have to cut and paste it. It's clumsy.
Right. And if I want to turn a bullet point into, say, a to-do item, I can't. I just have to delete it and type it again as a different thing.
Exactly. Notion changed that. In Notion, everything on the page, a paragraph, a heading, a checkbox, an image, even a whole database, is the same kind of object. It's a block.
So they're all individual units.
And because they're all the same fundamental unit, they become fluid. You can take a line of text, click a button, and turn it into a toggle. You can drag a to-do item and drop it into a database, and boom, it's now a task with properties like a due date and an owner.
So the information isn't trapped inside its format anymore.
It's not. It's completely medium agnostic. And that's where the Lego analogy finally clicks. You're not getting a pre-built castle. You're getting a box of bricks. You can build a castle or a spaceship or whatever you need. Notion gave people blocks and said, go build your own workflow.
But doesn't that create a huge new problem? I mean, I don't want to build my own project manager from scratch. That sounds like a ton of work.
It is. And that is the #1 criticism of Notion. The blank page is terrifying. For a lot of people, that infinite flexibility is just paralyzing.
It's the fear of the empty space.
Totally. But that's where their growth strategy was so brilliant. They came back from Kyoto. They launched this new version in 2018, and it started spreading. Not through ads, but because of the Lego master builders.
The power users?
Right. The early adopters, your designers, your developers, your productivity nerds, they saw this blank canvas and just went crazy. They built these incredibly elaborate life operating systems.
Oh, I've seen these on YouTube. People tracking their sleep, their reading lists, their plant watering schedule, all in one dashboard that looks like a NASA control panel.
And here's the genius move. Notion made it super easy to share those creations as templates. So now you don't have to be the master builder. You just find someone whose brain works in a way you admire, and you duplicate their entire system with one click.
It becomes a marketplace of ideas, not just for software, but for ways of thinking.
Exactly. You had people building Dungeons and Dragons, campaign trackers, recruitment pipelines for startups, personal journals, all with the same basic Lego bricks.
That explains the viral growth. I remember my entire Twitter feed was just screenshots of people's beautiful Notion setups. It was like a weird kind of status symbol.
It created this amazing bottom-up adoption loop. You know, a junior designer starts using it for free for her own projects because the official company tools are awful.
Sure.
Then her manager sees her screen and says, wait, what is that? That looks way better than our messy spreadsheet. And then suddenly the whole team is using it.
The classic shadow IT play. Hook them for free as individuals, then the company pays up for the enterprise plan.
And it worked. I mean, it really worked. From almost dead in Kyoto to a $10 billion company in just a few years.
But that kind of success attracts attention. Now you look around and everyone has blocks. Microsoft Loop is basically a Notion clone. Atlassian is building this stuff into Confluence. How do you defend against the giants when they just decide to copy you?
That's the classic dilemma, right? For Notion, it comes down to two things. First is that community. Microsoft can copy the feature set, but they can't copy the millions of templates and the YouTube tutorials and the whole culture that's built up around it.
Yeah, that's true. No one's making aesthetic Microsoft Loop videos on TikTok.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
And the second thing is how they've handled the AI wave.
Okay, yes, let's talk about the AI. Because every single app has a little AI sparkle button now.
Yeah.
And most of the time it just feels tacked on.
Well, the difference is where the AI lives. In most apps, it's a chatbot and a sidebar. It's basically just ChatGPT with a different logo. It doesn't know anything about your actual work.
It's disconnected.
Notion built the AI into the blocks because it already understands the structure of your data. It has context.
What does that actually look like? Give me an example.
Okay, so imagine you have a page full of messy, raw meeting notes, bullet points, people's names, half-formed ideas.
What?
Right. So you can just highlight all of that chaotic text and click a button that says Find Action Items. And because the AI knows what a to-do block is, it will scan that text and generate a perfectly formatted checklist for you, right there in the document.
Ah, so it's not just generating text, it's structuring your existing information.
It turns Notion from a passive place to store stuff into an active assistant that helps you make sense of it. It can summarize a long document for you. It can draft an email based on a few bullet points. It can even fill out database properties automatically.
That really does feel like the next step. If the first promise was build your own tools, the AI promise is the tool helps build itself.
Or at least it helps you clean up your own mess. Because let's be honest, the biggest danger with an everything app is that it just becomes a digital junk drawer.
I am so guilty of this.
Mm.
My Notion is a graveyard of half-baked ideas.
We all are. And AI might be the only thing that can make a second brain actually work because it can find the connections that you forgot you even made.
I want to zoom out for a second before we wrap up. Beyond the tech, there's a design philosophy here that feels important. The sources talk about this calm aesthetic.
It's so intentional. You look at old enterprise software, Salesforce or something, and it's just cluttered and gray and aggressive.
Yeah.
Notion is monochrome, lots of white space, cute icons. It's almost Japanese in its minimalism, which is funny given the Kyoto story.
It feels friendly, which is a weird thing to say about work software.
It is. It goes back to that idea of being as malleable as paper and pen. They want it to feel like your favorite notebook, not a corporate mandate, and that's a big part of why people get so attached to it.
So, as we look to the future, does this all-in-one model win? Do we just end up living inside these big, flexible canvases?
I think there's always a limit. A professional video editor is never going to edit a feature film in Notion.
Of course. You need the specialized tools.
But for that huge middle ground of knowledge work, the planning, the writing, the collaborating, I think this shift is permanent. We're moving away from vendors telling us how to work and toward teams shaping their own tools.
It puts the power in the hands of the user, but also the responsibility.
A blessing and a curse.
So let's just go back to that moment in Kyoto, because I can't get it out of my head.
It's a whole story, really.
You have these founders who were smart enough to build this complex thing, but they were also humble enough to admit it was the wrong thing. And they just burned it to the ground.
That phrase, clever but not essential, that is haunting.
It should haunt everyone. And that's really the thought I want to leave you with today. We all have something in our lives, a project, a business idea, maybe even just a personal habit that feels like Notion 1.0. You know, it's clever you've put a ton of effort in, but deep down, it's just not working. It's sluggish. And you keep patching it, hoping it'll get better.
You're stuck because of the sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly. And maybe the lesson from this whole story is that sometimes you need a Kyoto reset.
Yeah.
You need to stop patching the bugs, fire the staff of your bad habits, go into monk mode, and just rebuild the entire thing from its most fundamental blocks.
Sometimes you have to be willing to destroy the good version to ever get to the great one.
A terrifying thought, but maybe a necessary one. Thanks for helping us unpack all of this today.
It's always a pleasure to build with you.
And to all of you listening, if you're currently spending more time organizing your life in a database than actually living it, we see you. We get it. Share this deep dive with a friend who needs that reset, and we'll see you next time.